Good news today. Well, the OCR, I'm not the OCR, sorry. Inflation coming down is a good news story. No question about that. But there are some bad news individual items that are attached to it. And we'll get to that. And the thing is, and this is actually said in this article by a Labour MP, maybe by Aisha Verrall maybe, is that the government can take credit for this. Like, they can take credit for it, but they can't therefore turn away from the negative stats in society today that led to inflation coming down. You get to own both or neither. You can't own the good one and then go, unemployment, nothing to do with us. You own them both, right? So there's no question that, this has been a key marking of their election promises to get inflation numbers down, and they are down today.
A major target's been hit in the battle to slow down brutal price rises and help kickstart a sluggish economy. Inflation has dropped to its lowest level in 3.5 years. It's 2.2% for the September quarter. That annual inflation rise more than a point less than the June quarter when it was 3.3%. And this crucially means it's now in the Reserve Bank's all-important 1 to 3% target range. It's been a tough ride on the inflation rollercoaster for Kiwis when it's come to spending power during the cost of living crisis. Have a look at this. In March 2021, It was at 1.5%. Then it rose rapidly, peaking in June 2022 at 7.3%, before slowly starting to come down again and finally back below 3, hitting that 2.2%.
Now, for accuracy, our inflation didn't reach the peaks of many of our like-minded countries. But it did have a longer tail than many of them. And the reason for that is because the previous government chose to have health outcomes and keep people safe above and over everything else. Countries like the US, that has one of the worst death rates from COVID, they got back their inflation way down lower a lot sooner. So the tail is the payoff for 20,000 more New Zealanders who are alive today. And for all those businesses that got supported, and for all those individuals who got paid to be away from work when they were sick, the tail for all of that was longer inflation. And personally, I'll take that. Health of the people above and beyond anything else. Is that fair, Chewy?
Yes, and I think this is a really good example of something that our current government doesn't get. The government in bad times needs to spend.
Yeah.
They need to prop businesses up. They need to prop people's mortgages up. They need to bail the people out when times are tough. And then when times are good, the government needs to take their foot off the gas because we've got it from here.
Yeah.
And I think this is the key difference between a left-leaning government and how they see economics and their role in the economy.
Yeah.
And how a right business-focused government sees it. Because they're coming at it from a business mindset of times are tough, I need to tighten my belt. You are not a business. The country is not a business. You can't run it like one. But they're trying.
Yeah.
And we've got austerity because of it.
So inflation down. Let's keep going with the story.
Business correspondent Katie Bradford looks at what it means.
What it means.
While the dogs check out treats at this gastropub, their owners discuss the cost of living.
A bar can be a bit like a hairdresser's, you're talking with people all the time about what's going on out there. And people...
Can I just say, better choice TVNZ rather than the diamond ring seller? So, someone at a pub selling, because actually, inflation high, less money around, fewer people perhaps going to the keg room. But so I think better choice.
Definitely been struggling. We're finding that they'll come in and they're asking a lot more about the specials.
Leaving businesses to deal with falling customers and rising costs, so any relief welcome.
Definitely in the sectors of meat. We've seen significant increases. Seafood. Fruit and veg and staples seem to be holding okay at the moment, but we've definitely seen changes, and then alcohol goes up constantly.
Vegetables are a big contributor to that fall in annual inflation. It's a bit easier at the petrol pump too, helped by the government's axing of all.
Sorry, what is this petrol they speak of, Chewy? What's that thing they've got in the car? I don't recognise it. Do you have any idea?
Oh, no idea. I'm still grinning my head off every time I drive past a petrol station because I'm an asshole.
I pulled into a Caltex the other day and got a can of drink, and they went, "Any petrol with that, sir?" And I went, "No," and walked out.
fuel tax. Preschool fees are also falling, largely due to the government's family boost policy.
The era of
Nikki
crushing
just helped
price
them put that
increases
together.
is over.
But government policies are also having a negative impact. The reintroduction of prescription charges means it costs more at the chemist. High rents taking up a large part of that increase, as are rates and insurance.
But hang on. Sorry. Rate increases, downward pressure. Hang on. No, I don't know. No, must be wrong. Prime Minister promised us for a year, downward pressure. How can there be rate increases? I'm just going to play it again because that can't be right.
Impact. The reintroduction of prescription charges means it costs more at the chemist. High rents taking up a large part of that increase.
We need to tell them, Katie Bradford, you've made a mistake. That can't be right because the Prime Minister promised for a year, downward pressure. Downward pressure. That's not. Oh no, I don't accept that. Sorry.
As are rates and insurance. All in all, domestic inflation remains high.
We've worked incredibly hard.
Actually, in saying that, sorry to interrupt again, rates, for example.
And insurance.
Just remember, we told you before the election, rates were going to go up. With a Three Waters version, they were going to go up far less than without. And look at that, 12.2%. What did I work out the other day? I pay rates of about $80, $60 a week. $60 a week in rates for my house. 800 square metre section. It's not tiny. And I think about someone on a pension, you know? And that's gone up by 12, let's say it's just 10%. So that $80 would become 88, $90. And with Three Waters, the increase would have been less. And we did the numbers and we showed you the numbers, but no, because someone got concerned about Maori owning the water, and they got that message through and they convinced enough people of it. So you could actually add this to National because they fomented that argument, and they were the recipients of the votes from the people selling that. Thanks, National.
All in all, domestic inflation remains high.
We've worked incredibly hard to put financial discipline in place. The consequence of that is with good monetary policy and good fiscal policy, we have now inflation in the band. That is something we should be celebrating.
If they want to claim credit for that, they can also claim credit for the 55,000 people that have gone overseas.
Yes.
Record net migration, for the higher unemployment. 22,000 more people are on the unemployment benefit.
And
now, without being partisan, that is unbelievably fair. You don't get to get celebrated because of the low inflation, which is good, without going, but we have to remember we all knew that inflation had to go up to get there. So you got to, if you're owning it, if you're going to celebrate it as the government, look how good we're running the economy, then you must also own unemployment and people leaving our shores. That's actually just fair, nothing else, Chewy?
Yep, absolutely. I still think that the national government doesn't understand that as a small island trading nation, that their effect on inflation is minimal. The government's effect on inflation as a whole, and this goes for National and Labour, is largely out of their control.
Yeah,
because it all comes down to who we're selling our goods to and where we're importing our goods from. The reason inflation as a whole went through the fucking roof during COVID is international trade ground to a halt. There were not ships transporting goods from China and the US and everywhere. Everything stopped. The price went up for everything because the ones that were moving with the top dollar stuff. I have a mate who works in importing furniture from China. And he, like, these figures are not exact, but I remember him saying that, you know, a 40-foot container full, whether it was empty or full, cost them $5,000 to move normally. And then that same container during COVID would cost close to 20. That's where inflation comes from, because all of our goods are more expensive.
Yeah. And also because, as you say, you know, we all heard about people who got a sparkle that year because they didn't go overseas because there was no travel. So people weren't spending as much. The economy was flooded with extra money. And that's what inflation is, more money floating around for goods and services to purchase. And that happened through COVID. All right, we'll keep going.
Hamilton, people are still noticing high prices.
You can't really go for a grocery shop for less than 100.
Got to find out about the store in the background, the Fat Brother. I'm
Brother.
intrigued. Yeah.
bucks.
Even though the property market's dropping, the landlords are not lowering the rent at the moment either. So it's really sad for a lot of our people.
I feel like things are still going up. Inflation drops, but then it takes ages for anything else to catch up.
And of course, falling inflation means falling interest rates.
A lot of my customers are talking about when their mortgages will come off and they'll make some changes. And I think we're expecting to see that in the not too distant future. But yeah, we haven't felt it just yet.
So cautious optimism coming through.
Within the past week, I've really noticed an increase in function inquiries for Christmas, which is really exciting to see that coming through.
The inflation giant may have been crushed, but the Reserve Bank's engineered recession means unemployment continues to be on the rise.
So inflation.
There you go. So there's the story from One News. Thank you, One News, that you guys did the hard mahi to give us that work. So yeah, I mean, good. Inflation down, good. But also remember, always remember, we got told 12 months ago for inflation to come down, more people would have to be unemployed. It doesn't mean it's necessarily a plan to, it's a result from. So not all good for everybody. If you've got a bunch of savings in the bank, inflation down, not so good. So inflation down, good, but there are some kind of tangents and there are some little strings attached. It does have string. It's not inflation down with no strings. It is inflation down with some strings attached. So it's not the overall nothing, no bad news here at all. There is a few. You know what I'm saying, Joey?
I know exactly what you're saying there.
You know what I'm saying?
One of the things that I'd like to highlight, because remember, the downward pressure was supposed to come with reduced interest rates and all of that sort of thing. That was going to make rents and stuff cheaper. Like this is from Reddit. Hi, property manager. Can you please reduce the rent on my property by this much per week, as we're about to refix at a lower interest rate? Many thanks, obviously, from the landlord. So that's
Nice.
a pretty easy instruction.
Yeah.
For a property manager to execute.
Yep.
Hi, so-and-so forwarded me your email. We generally wouldn't reduce a rent rate as it's important for the property to stay relevant within the current market. However, perhaps investing that additional $25 per week back into the property might be more beneficial in the long run. My answer to that property manager would be, bitch, did I stutter?
Yeah, would be.
You are
actually,
there
thanks.
to do the job for me. This is the thing. This is where the downward pressure is going to disappear into. No property manager wants their fee to go down.
Yeah.
Like, your property has to match the... No, it doesn't. If I own a property and I want to rent it to someone, I choose the price. It's my property.
Yeah.
But there will be heaps of landlords out there that do not have the same view as this one, and do not stand up to their property managers who by and whole are a bunch of leeches. So yeah, like this is the thing. In what world was removing interest deductibility and a lowering of interest rates going to lead to cheaper rents for people? Never in a million years. Be one landlord in 100.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing we didn't talk about, though. Mortgage rates coming down. They talked about with inflation coming down in November, there could be another big OCR drop. And big is like, 0.5%. And you're already starting to see banks rally around. So there are a lot of people on floating at the moment or on short term, and that could be another win. That could be another category of win. All I'm saying is within society, there's going to be some wins for inflation going down, but there's going to be some losses. Just talk to the people in Timaru, Chewy, that just lost their jobs at that mill, or the freezing weeks, whichever it was. So, it does go both ways.